George, you have the heavily anticipated PASportVO.
5, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
To the Pro Audio Suite.
These guys are professional, they're motivated.
With Tech to the VO stars, George Whittam, founder of Source Elements, Robert Marshall, international audio engineer, Darren Robbo Robertson, and Global Voice, Andrew Peters. Thanks to TriBooth, Austrian Audio, making passion heard, Source Elements, George the Tech Whittam, and Robbo and AP's international demos. To find out more about us, check theproaudiosuite.com.
Line up, ladies!
Here we go.
And welcome to another Pro Audio Suite, thanks to TriBooth. Don't forget the code TRIPAP to get $200 off your TriBooth, and Austrian Audio, making passion heard. And their new headphones, by the way, if you'd like to win some, don't forget to go to our website, theproaudiosuite.com/win, and you can grab yourself a pair of the brand new HiX20 headphones.
Lots of entries already.
Oh, excellent. I haven't been checking in with you.
They're coming in thick and fast. So if you want to be in it, you're going to have to jump in.
Yep.
That's
absolutely.
great. I'm glad to hear there's some engagement around it.
Yeah.
It's a really cool idea for a contest.
Join early and often.
Join early and often and have some fun, because there's some people out there who are doing stupid things, and it sounds great.
Brilliant. Love it.
Good.
Now, talking of new things, George, you have the heavily anticipated PASportVO.
I did. It arrived. I've done an unboxing. I didn't really do the video production on that yet, but it's not that exciting. The box, by the way, is a very much his normal, very low key cardboard. I'll hold it up like this. Mm-hmm. It's just, that's it. There's the box.
But it's got one very important thing in the top right corner, though.
You are right about that.
Yeah.
You are right about that.
There's
that. There's the logo. Yes.
Yeah, nice.
Have we done the instruction card yet? That kind
We
of
do not have instructions yet, so
that's what
It's a good thing George designed it.
Yeah.
we're learning how to use it as we go.
Yeah.
That's still in the works. We have to do a proper instruction sheet. Yeah. So so got to unbox it, plug it in, and see that it works. We have a long list. We have a lot of homework for all the four of us to do, because I created a spreadsheet that's a checklist of every feature and function I want to have us all test before this becomes a real product. So what you're looking at here is the prototype, and it is a fully functioning prototype. In fact, everything I have tested on it is functioning from my perspective perfectly, which is awesome. Which means that, Michael and the team that did the fab and did the circuit design, they worked really hard to get it right the first time. Yeah. They didn't ship us something that was 90% or even 95. As far as I can tell, it's all there. And so it's just fantastic. I mean, we'll go through the unit and you guys can ask questions, and we'll just talk through what you see on the top, and then we'll show you what's on the base of the unit down here.
That's where the magic happens.
It is kind of where the magic happens. Yeah, this is the base of the unit is sort of like the power user part. Mm-hmm. I guess you could say. Yeah. And the top is the user-friendly part that you want to see.
There's just so much you can do with it. You can record interviews. You can record a backup at a different level. Depends on what you're doing. You can get a lot of functionality out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just remarkable.
The top is the top is the that's nice, and the bottom is the oh wow.
I know we're teasing it, but now I'll show you guys what is on the bottom that you normally would see if the labels were ready.
Nice bottom.
Yes. It is a feature-rich bottom, but this is where the connections are for the most part, except for your microphone, and mic and speaker is at the other side of the unit actually. But there's one switch on here we really sweated over, and that's the record channel 2 source switch. And we really gave that a lot of thought about what it should do, and that was I would say the most complicated part of how we designed it, right?
Agreeing on that one. Yep.
Yeah. So just so you guys understand, that switch is really only determining what the channel 2 is doing, right? So for the majority of you, you're really just going to be interested in what channel 1 is doing, or what your microphone inputs are doing, right? So it's got 2 mic inputs, right? But their job isn't really to be a stereo recorder by default, they are there to give you two mic inputs, each with their own independent mic preamps with their own independent switchable phantom power and high pass filters, right? That was on our list. We wanted that.
Yep.
And we got it.
And then one button to be able to switch between the two.
That's the great part. Yeah.
And is that, you can't quite see, but that button or that light goes green to indicate which one is active.
Yeah. It's actually two white lights. And if I turn down my lighting,
light, okay.
My demo workstation is atrocious. Like there's no room to do anything.
Just cup your hand over it. We could almost see it then when you had your hand over it. Yeah.
There you go.
Just gotta make it like
there you go. There it is.
See it right there. Even just that interference. Yeah. You can see it switches the mic that's being used. That could be your 41.6 on one and your OC18 on the other.
Yeah, you can set the gains, right? So there's a lot of switchable systems I've seen, but the fact that they're two pre's with their own independent circuits means you can set the gain exactly right for this microphone and for this microphone, whether you decide that you want to gain match them, or maybe this microphone is what you use all the time for animation and stuff, and that needs much lower gain, then this one could be on that lower gain setting. So it's just such a seamless way to switch mics. And as you can hear too, it doesn't pop or click or anything.
No.
But let's go back to the front panel to talk about that switch now that lets you pick what you're doing.
Let's go to this front panel.
So record channel 2, it lets you record on the second channel out to your DAW.
Right.
Or whatever you're using. Your recorder doesn't have to be a digital audio workstation. It could be Audacity or something simple.
Right.
But you have a few options, and the first one is that -12, which means basically it's like a backup at a lower volume.
That's right. So that's its default mode that I would probably hope it ships in, right? Because that's what most voice actors would want, is if they choose to record a stereo track, channel 1 or left would be the normal level, and channel 2 or the right channel would be the padded or the lower signals for your safety. Right?
And that is actually a lower, if I understand right, we made sure that's a lower preamp setting. So it's whatever preamp you select, it's channel 2 is the other one. Am I correct?
My understanding is channel 2 is the same preamp that you're recording through, but with a pad inserted.
With a pad, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. And by the way, I'm flicking the switch, but you're not hearing anything happen because this switch does not affect input 1 or channel 1, I should say, because we're only sending channel 1 into the system right now, right? So you're not even hearing channel 2. So the middle position is mic 2. So now it just works like let's call it a Scala
stereo recorder. It's like a stereo recorder at that point.
It's a 2-input mic input with that can go to 2 tracks for stereo miking, for interviews, sitting down with somebody. Each of you has a mic.
Local interview.
Local interview.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
that's actually a good way to think of it. Middle is local interview, and right is remote interview. So switch it to right, and now you're recording the guests on channel 2.
On the other interface.
It's coming
on the other interface, right? So
coming in from the other USB interface, which is the next huge thing about this thing.
That's right.
2 interfaces in one.
Yeah. So if I focus in for us on the show here, this knob right here, comms, is that signal coming back from the computer, right, from the communication channel, and then being fed back in to the recorder. And so this is where I would set that level coming back from the guests and everybody else. So when I turn this down, by the way, you guys get quieter in my cans.
Yeah.
But the other thing to remember about that too is it doesn't have to be the same computer that you're recording to. That could be your iPad, your iPhone. It could be another computer altogether. Anything that will take a USB-C connection, that comms can be.
Right. And now that Apple has been strong-armed by the European Union to have USB-C,
kicking and screaming.
Now every single Apple smart device, phone, the phones, the iPads, all are USB-C. And so they just work like a normal interface. And if you still have a Lightning phone, I have an iPhone 14 Pro, which is Lightning. I need to use the camera adapter kit. And to adapt, it's just like $10, and it still works. But yeah, it's interesting that the USB-C on the iPad and the phone is even different from the Lightning on the inside of the phone. It's so crazy how they're all unique in the way that they work. So this should work with any situation no matter what, if you use the right adapter. So this gain here, I should not gain, but really a mixer. This knob is a mixer. This is the more me or more what comes back from the computer knob. So this, you'll probably set this either once and never change it, or you will change it often, depending on how you work. So if you sit and edit in your cans all the time, you'll probably leave this, if you want to monitor yourself, you'll leave it more towards the center or more towards the left, maybe. And then when you sit down for edit, and that way you're not hearing the mic. Although, forgetting that it has a mute button, you could just also press the mute button and you get the same effect.
Yeah.
Right. So that makes sure that what you hear in your cans is clean. You're not hearing the mic bleeding out, from the
and that's your
environment.
playback of what you're editing. It's not the clients coming back on your remote connection, because that's on the comms interface.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is also how loudly the folks on the call with you on Source
playback.
Connect, Zoom, or whatever.
Yes.
This is how loudly they will hear the playback.
So now you can do a session with playback.
That's right.
To your clients very easily.
That's right. So if you hit play on your DAW and you're like, how's that sound? And they're like, it's great. Then you leave it there. If they're saying we need a little bit more level, you can cheat this more to the right and they'll get a little bit more level on the playback.
Side.
Right.
Yep.
So it's almost like a it's a kind of weird kind of mute.
They get less of you though when you do that. When you push it more towards playback, they get less of you.
Exactly.
Less of me talking, right. But when you're playing back, you don't want them to hear you mouth breathing anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't want them hearing the playback while you're going.
Sitting there. A breath or a breath.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, it'd probably be a good practice to the right for
or just run your mic mute would be easier.
Yeah. Or you just
Yeah, there you go.
Which is probably what you're going to want to do more so anyway. Yep. And as again, you guys can hear the mic switching, the switching circuitry, and this is fantastic. There's no clicks,
how many
pops,
interfaces
nothing.
just have that button alone? They don't.
Well, it's a true mute too, so it's actually killing the whole thing, right? So you can swear your head off, and there's no chance of anyone hearing you.
Nobody has that.
An Apollo in the software has a mute button, but
only in the software, and it still doesn't mute the output to everything.
That's right.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
This is a global. If you don't hear yourself, nobody hears you.
This is right at the preamp, gone.
Right.
Yeah, because a lot of mute buttons just are not completely mute. You still got a small percentage bleeding. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then we have our headphones and our speakers, which is great because you can have this be used as just your overall desktop interface, and also
speaker ports up the top, George.
Yeah, the speaker ports are on the top. I'll tilt this up a tad towards the camera. It's not going to look great, but that's okay. Here's your speaker outputs right here.
One on each side.
I raise this up, actually.
Yeah, on either side of the two XLRs. Yeah,
there you go. Left and right. So you've got individual
outputs.
Those
are balanced speaker outputs.
Mm-hmm.
They are indeed. So you might be confused when you see a mini jack, but this is not that all unusual anymore with miniaturization of everything these days. And this is just a TRS 1/8 inch. And those are common cables. So you can either get adapters, or if it was me, I would just get cables that go from 1/8 inch stereo or mini TRS to a 1/4 inch TRS.
Yes.
And then run them right into my monitors.
Careful of the XLR variants, because they may do some funny grounding.
Exactly, and that can be an issue because all my speakers here run off XLR.
Yeah, you want one that truly goes 3 pins to 3 pins. A lot of the TRS to XLR adapters might try to mono up that stereo signal.
Yeah, make sure you get the right cables. And once this thing's shipping and we have it on the store, for sure we will have Michael put proper cables. Get this adapter.
Have those
get
available. He sells cables too.
Yeah.
So then there's a confusing switch. If you go back to the picture, there's a switch that says you can have the
let's go back to the
aux output be a speaker output.
Yes. Another little value-added thing we came up with partway through the design process. I don't remember who thought of the idea, but
we all did. It's all of us. Yes.
Oh, nobody takes any credit. We're a team.
The Beatles.
The HP speaker switch gives us an additional output to do other stuff with. So it's maybe somewhat confusingly labeled as aux out, but it's just another output to use for other things. So the idea here is that that output can either act as just simply another headphone output source or output, right?
So it follows the headphones to the left of it.
Correct. So when it's in headphone position, the headphone knob will control that, right? When it's in the right position, now it acts as just a pair of unbalanced outputs that you could run to another set of speakers, and then that would be controlled by the speaker knob.
Yep. So it's an aux output that can do either speakers or headphones.
Well, you could still, I don't know why you'd want to, but you could stick another analog recorder on the end of that too, probably.
Well, it could be a camera. See, this thing's
there you go.
This thing's got quarter 20 on the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So this thing is ready to act as another auxiliary audio device for a camera. Mm-hmm. So this could end up being the way you trim the output going to the camera. Yep. So you just get the right level going out to camera.
Well, imagine the power of that, plugging it into your camera and doing a phone interview, and you could be recording a backup to camera as well as your audio output to wherever else. Yep.
Yeah. So it's just we designed it to be user friendly on its surface, and I mean literally on the surface, right?
With default switches in place.
Yeah. This top surface is very user friendly, right? And then the power user is on this side. And there's just so much more that can be done for those that want to have those controls, and that's what you're going to get, right? So we're not even done going through all the switches.
Yeah, we can kind of cover some of the bottom ones really easy, like the record comms power. That's an easy one. It just lets you power the unit from either one of the two USB ports on the left or right.
And that was a Michael thing. I remember he said that I could do that. And I said, that's brilliant, because we just don't know for sure which is the better power source. For almost everybody, the record switch, it'll be in the record position, because that's most people are going to plug it into a desktop or a laptop, and that will provide plenty of power. But the option to use the other jack for power is always there, which is really
Andrew was
neat.
just being selfish because he wants to record in his car. That's what it came from.
That's right.
Exactly.
Or the Vespa instead.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, or the Vespa. That's right. Yeah. More to the point. Yeah, when I plug my helmet mic in, how am I supposed to power it?
That's what the mic is for the interview while on Vespa.
That's the one. There you go.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And then you've got a few other little switches. We can go through those too.
A really light compressor.
Yeah, so this ended up being essentially, I believe, a 2-to-1 compressor at around -10 threshold, I think.
Yeah, it's just as you run the gain, it's like a set threshold, and you just run your gain hotter to move yourself into the compression zone.
Yeah.
And it might help you on some of the more dynamic stuff.
I think you're hearing me through that right now. Let me see what position that switch is in. Is that this one?
It's a pretty light compressor, though. It's like a real...
Yeah, I am using it. Yep.
Gentle slope.
I'm definitely using it. Yep,
look, we can see the green lights up through the
yeah, you can see it peeking through the hole.
Yeah.
Does it have a compression indicator? Does it give a little flickery?
It does not have a compression indicator. Aww. It does not. No. That was something we couldn't squeeze.
I know we were trying to get that in there. I thought we were trying to make the top light. But we just figured if you know you're in the threshold area, then you know it's refreshing.
There are, believe it or not, as much as this thing has feature-wise, there are a few things that we just didn't get to do.
Yeah,
there's just no room.
It was room. It was packaging, partially as well price point. We just wanted it to. It was such a sweet spot we were shooting for, and I think we got it. But we left a few things out.
So let's do the last switch there. The mic playback comms.
Yeah, well, there's two switches you didn't mention. On the left-hand side is the literal power switch. Oh, yeah. It actually has a real power switch.
Turn it off and on.
This is a toggle switch that you can actually, operate from your finger. It's very easy to reach. It's right there.
We should explain also that there's no the plate, because being a prototype, it doesn't have...
there's no text on that. That's why we're referring to it.
Yeah, that's why the picture's easier to look at. It's also better than me trying to hold the damn thing.
So you can
see it.
Hold the damn thing still.
Hold it still, will you?
So the power switch and then the mic...
And then the mic/mic playback. This is a very interesting switch. So for not everybody is going to want to send playback when you hit play in your DAW. Not everybody's going to want to send that out to the phone call or the Zoom call or whatever, right? This is something you can choose to decide whether the guests or the whoever it is hears your playbacks. And so why do we put that in there, guys? What's the scenario where that would come into play?
I'm not sure. This is probably one of those ones that we were a little bit more like waffled between, but I can see the use case. Although I would imagine it's in the right default position with playback being selected to go to the comms.
Well, actually, I don't know what the right default. I don't know what default it's on my unit. My unit, it is in the playback position, but I might have switched it.
We should make sure we know what the default shipping configuration is.
We do. We want to know. That is a good point.
Yeah.
Because if we don't know what it is in, it's going to be harder to explain to people. But so that's all the plugs on the unit and all the switches on the plate there. So I guess, I mean, for some of you, you may never want to send playback down the line. So that way you can essentially sit there and edit something or work on something or listen to something literally during session and nobody's going to hear it. That's what that switch would be for.
This switch almost would be useful if it wasn't quite so recessed, because you could almost imagine flipping it back and forth depending if you're brewing an edit and you're like, listen.
Since you mentioned that, right? It does come with something like this, which you will may or may not lose relatively quickly. I usually tape these to the base of my equipment that uses these. Just have it there. But this is just a little tool for reaching in and flicking those little switches. It's a sim tool, really. You could use a thumbtack or push pin or whatever. But that's how you switch it.
I think our user base is mainly not doing over the shoulder editing, and they either need to or don't need to provide playback to their clients, and so that switch will have a.
But the idea of the playback with it's the mix minus. That's what we're talking about, isn't it? So
that's the power of this thing for podcasters and voiceover artists is no more mucking around trying to create a mix minus. George, you explain this the best. You're better off explaining it in how you would set it up.
No more hiring me.
No more hiring. No more hiring George.
Do you know how many gigs I'm losing because we invented this damn thing?
Talk them through it, George. You do it well.
So, I mean, the whole concept of mix minus is it's a mix of everything except other things that you want to exclude. So in this case, a mix minus is a mix of everything except the input of that same destination, which is a bad way of explaining. It keeps echoes from happening.
I always say send everything to everybody except themselves. So when you're receiving from someone on a remote communications channel and you want them to hear what you hear, you really don't want them to hear everything you hear because you hear them and they can't hear themselves. If they hear themselves, they will get an echo. So it's a mix minus the party that you're.
But the beauty of this, right, having the two USB inputs, George, and this is what you explain best, is that you use one just for your recorder, right, and you use the other for your comms.
That's the record one. This is the comms one.
So your record one comes from and goes to your recorder, and the comms one comes from and goes to Zoom,
your connection,
Source Connect, whatever it is that you're connected to.
Yeah. This knob is the. Oh my gosh! The playback from the studio is blowing me out of my cans. It's too loud. Knob. You just turn that down. Yeah. Or their talkback is too loud, or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you need to hear more of them. That's the knob right there. That lets you hear more of them. Right.
And the reason why it's a minus is because they're inherently separated by having two separate interfaces.
Yeah.
You can just plug the playback of one into the other, and there's nothing to minus out. They're separated for you.
Because I was about to say the same thing. So what you could do, because they're two separate USB interfaces, you can have the record one going into your DAW, so you're recording on that, and then you're going to have the second one, the comms one, going into the Zoom session or whatever you're using to communicate. So if you have to do a playback, it plays back as a mix minus into Zoom, but you're still recording separately because they both come up as different interfaces on your computer. So it's all on the same computer, but
I was saying to Andrew, it's like it can be all on the same computer, or it can be on a separate computer too.
Yeah.
And it still will work exactly the same. Yeah. And if you think about the difference between using the same computer or a separate computer in any other setup, and the setups are fundamentally different. Here, it's literally the same setup, just or your phone.
Yeah, I was going to say your phone or a tablet in the second one, in the comms one. Yeah.
The other power of some of those switches on the bottom though too is that you can record yourself on. If you record a stereo track, you can record yourself on one track, and you can actually record your comms on the other track. So for some reason, if you need to keep a record of what the client's telling you, just record it straight to your voiceover track, and bang, when you go to edit, it's all there, baby.
But Robbo, it's even better. After they tell you to read it again with a smile, and you say, you already told me to read it again with a smile, and in fact, here's you telling me to record it.
You can go back and prove it. Yeah.
I love that.
Here's playback of your direction. Now,
That'll keep the session moving along smoothly, won't it?
here's playback of your direction. Do you
And
want
you'll
to
be
give me-
rebooked.
How to get boned from a job before you've even finished the first take. Yeah, exactly.
So I thought of a whole. So yeah. By the way, you do not necessarily need to use both cables, right?
Yeah.
If you're thinking comms, I never use comms, or I never ever need a playback, or I never ever. No, you can just use the record cable and be
or
done
you
with
have your own mix minus.
That's right. You can still use your own mix minus. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this knob here, this monitor mix between you and playback still functions. You know, it's still working. Now, a totally different thing that none of us talked about during the design process, I don't believe, you guys tell me if I'm wrong, this thing is absolutely accessible. I can operate this blindfolded.
Yeah.
So I know where my gain knobs are. I can feel the positions. I know what position my power. These switches are not soft switches. These are not the kind where you just press and it switches. These are physical up and down switches.
Can we patent like a Braille audio meter that just like shocks you progressively?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you'll see, if I can show this, when I press these buttons, they do detent. They go down when they're on, and they go up when they're off. So even if you can't see the lights, even if your head is down reading, you know, if you're watching your script, you can have your hand on this and know where the gain is. You can know where the positions of these
you can get
buttons
muscle
are.
memory to know where that mute button is, which might be really useful.
Yeah, cough mute or something like that. Yeah, absolutely.
So and so the other day, somebody asked me, "Hey, you know how those radio broadcast consoles can, when you turn on the mic, the monitors turn off. When you turn off the monitors, the mic goes on."
Automatically.
Yeah.
Or the roadcaster does that too, right?
Right. So very few gear does that unless it's got a really sophisticated routing system like the Roadcaster. So what I was like, well, let's see what happens when you press them together just simultaneously. So let's say I'm editing and I want my speakers on and my mic is muted. And then I press them both at the same time. Now my speakers are muted and my mic is on. It's really, really easy to do.
There you go.
You just press them both.
Yeah.
Bob's your uncle.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly the same as an auto
We
mute
could
switch.
provide like a $35 little stick that you put across.
Oh, that's classy. Yeah. Buy our expensive piece of equipment with a stick. Yeah.
The stick is the add-on. That's the $35 part.
But yeah, that was just something that literally came up in conversation, and I was like, "Gee, well, actually, when I think about it, that's literally just a 2-finger click.
Yeah.
It does the same thing.
Yeah.
So you know, that's just another like little. Just so happens that you can do that with just a stroke of a wrist, right?
Yeah.
And to be specific, jumping back to something, the reason why we have the speaker versus aux out, it was because we want you to be able to have this in your booth, on your desktop, and still use it perhaps in the booth. So this gives you the ability to extend a headphone set over to your booth and still have a headphone set by your desktop.
Yeah.
Right. Correct.
So it's basically dual headphone output. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like we've checked off an unbelievable long list of boxes, and we're going to be we're all going to be spending some time with these in our hands, testing every function and feature to make sure that, you know, not only does one prototype have the right features, but, you know, we're going to test all the prototypes that we've received, you know, and
it's the same. I mean, like the Jasmine preamp that we got, like the dedicated one. It's the same preamp, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really good.
There's an unbelievable amount of stuff. I mean, we might do a little document showing what this replaces or maybe what it includes, right? I mean, when you see it all condensed into a single box like this, you kind of like lose perspective as to what it's doing.
It's like what? It's like a third the size of a Scarlett, maybe even less.
Yeah.
So
It's like a third of the size
better,
of Scarlett and does like
more.
4 times as much stuff.
Yeah.
For its size and its price point, I would defy anybody to find something that does as much.
It's 2
as what that
interfaces.
does.
So like,
Yeah.
what is the price point, by the way? Is it like $5?
$6.99
$6.99
US.
Yeah.
So it's like $3.50 per side.
For now, it doesn't mean it won't go up.
And you can still order one. And you can still order one. It's not too late.
The pre-order is still available.
Yeah, there's 15 left, I think.
Roughly 10 to 15. Yeah, I don't know the precise number, but there
and
are.
then if not, what? He doesn't know how many. He has to get another order going to buy enough parts in bulk. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, the way Centrance works, because they are a small company, and he doesn't want to get out over his skis too much.
Over his skis, yeah.
So he's careful in how many units he ships and batches, and he does things in batches. So on the one hand, that is nice. It's good for his cash flow, but as a customer, it means sometimes you wait a while until another batch is available. But I have to say, I think it's a really smart thing to do, because it's kept his company sustainable.
Yeah.
There are a lot of companies that come and go, and a lot of new tech comes and goes because they overinvest in production or something they overinvest in something, they overspend in something, and then they can't make up the loss. They can't recover. Yeah. And, Michael, when did he ship the MicPort Pro the first time? 2008? 9 maybe. I mean, a long time ago.
Yeah.
He's got a track record of delivering and making products that last. So, I'm really glad that we've partnered with somebody with such a good track record and understands it's a long run thing. You can't just make a widget, ship 1,000 units, and disappear into the sunset. No, that's not what's happening here.
There's a lot of things going on too, like just this chip manufacturer going away, that one becoming available, redesigning a board to fit a chip that you weren't, like all that kind of stuff. There's a lot going on.
Yeah. I know it took him a long while to find the appropriate chip for that when they...
And at some point when we have real units, I don't want to take apart the prototype, but at some point I'll take it apart. Or I know there's also pictures of the circuits, but you guys just have to understand how much is in this unit. Most gear of this design and size has a few DSP chips or a computer chip and a few other, and everything's in software. This thing's all analog, baby. It's all like,
do you know my analogy?
I can physically feel that it is warm because there's so much circuitry inside this thing running right now.
My analogy of the PASportVO is me and Robert in a room. I'm the outside and he's the inside. Yeah. The outside is pretty simple and the inside is really complex.
Let me share something with you. Hang on a sec. Hang on. Here we go. So we were just talking about the boards. Here we go. Have a look at this baby. If George can bring me up.
Yep, here we go.
Oops.
There it is.
There it is. Hang on. Here we go. There's a couple more from memory. There we go.
So it's like a sandwich of boards. It looks like you had two boards there.
It's like there's really no more room.
So that picture right there, just to explain, that's actually several different boards on one wafer.
Yes.
So the wafer is that entire thing you're seeing, but it's actually broken down into smaller parts. So like there's like a horizontal line about a third of the way up. That's where one cut happens, where they cut the wafer. Then about 3/4 of the way up, there's another line. That's another cut in the wafer. And then above that, there's another line. And that thing cuts into 3 more pieces at the top. I think it's 5 separate wafers. And then each of those wafers has circuits on, some of them have circuits on both sides. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Mind blowing.
So yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? You
it's
don't
funny.
realize.
You buy an interface that...
and that's not even populated. Too. You're looking at a board that doesn't even have all this stuff that's going to be on it.
Well, it has the circles.
The circles are there waiting for their components to be placed in.
I think that was further back.
That's like halfway populated.
Yeah.
Oh, that's before the knobs. Oh, yeah. What you're seeing in that last one again is where all these knobs will be.
And the meters. You can see the red dots for the meters. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny with most gear. The reason it's so light is because if you open it up, there's nothing inside.
Right.
This one is so jam packed.
This one's still light, but it's just simply because it's so darn small.
Yeah,
it's so tiny. Like it has a little heft to it, but it's
is it heavier than like other Centrance? Do you have like a
Do I have my drug scale? Is that what you're asking me? No, I don't have my drug scale. No, I don't know. Actually, I have not literally felt the weight compared to like the Portcaster or the mixer face. I do have those here. I would imagine it weighs in within 20, 30 grams. I don't know. Not that different, but it's not sure.
I think it's cool. It's like all you need for a voiceover business, really.
Yep.
For like your beginner to really
intermediate,
intermediate or even high level. I mean, Andrew, you could probably run your whole business off this thing, would you say?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the thing is, like we were talking the other day about all the things to try and put it in simple terms that it replaces, so we can kind of justify how much this thing is costing. Even if you had a mic switch, you'd probably go and buy a gold digger.
That's like $400.
Yeah, so it's $400 for a gold digger. You've got 2 USB interfaces. You have all the other kit, like the mix minusing, the communications.
Yeah, you would need another mixer to do the mix minuses.
Yeah.
You'd have to learn how to set that up. You'd have a
bunch of crap all over your table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No,
power supplies, and you can't just pop it in your bag and go.
Well, that's the other thing, right? I mean, the portability of this thing by itself as well makes it so much more powerful.
Yeah.
Let's just put it next to another audio interface.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's reasonably small, but let's be honest, it's not something you're just going to throw on your Vespa and take away for the weekend.
But let's also look at it. I'm sure Apollo will say something, but it's still 2 very good preamps. Both of them are 2 input preamps, and they both have a mixer that's complex enough to let you do playbacks and other things. Mm-hmm. The difference is, one, you need George's entire tech support to make use of.
And even him scratching his head on occasion.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this one just works and doesn't have what you don't need and has what you need in like a simple package.
Mm-hmm. So quite a while ago, somebody asked me about contrasting this against that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right? They're like, aren't they the same price about? I'm like, yeah, they are similar price. So tell me the difference, and
you're paying for simplicity and for purity.
The learning curve. I know this is designed to be easy, right? This thing, it's not, guys, it's not easy. It's complicated as hell. It's got you got to go, if you want to set up the outputs so that the mix minus works correctly, you got to go to a menu, outputs, go to routing.
I had to do that with mine because it got unplugged and it lost its stuff.
It's insanely complicated. I mean, yes, it's more flexible for certain use cases, but this is purpose built. It is bespoke. It is exactly what we need.
And it's all analog, so no updates or anything else to deal with that are going to fuck it up on you.
Yeah,
no firmware updates.
All of a sudden, like Mac doesn't update and all of a sudden it doesn't work.
No things like this that you don't need.
Oh, I just hit my playback button, but I'm not using the PASport.
I was going to say, the PASport won't work when you're not plugged in, George.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, if you're really jonesing to have that ability, you can always plug that into the second input. And
you could. There you go. You could still use your Rodecaster if you really wanted to, couldn't you?
Absolutely. Yes. You could. I could run a line out into this.
Into comms on your Rodecaster, and away you go. There you go.
Into the second preamp and put it in.
Wow, there you go. That's adding some flexibility.
So
you don't have a second mic.
I'm thinking David Kay would love one of these, so he can take his interface on his Vespa when he goes away.
Oh yeah,
there you go.
At some point, we're going to be talking Vespas with David Kay.
Is he the one who's plugging the 416 straight into the mic port
without the cable?
Yeah, or not the 416, the even smaller one, like the 80, the tiny Sennheiser that's just the top.
Oh, the 8060 or the 8040, 8050, the 80 series. Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, because Mike has his own little electric mics, that
you
plug
got one
in.
of those mics. Cool.
I have a pair of these, and so you'll see the barrel connector is literally the same as an XLR.
Yeah.
And a lot of the small mics, like a 416, 416, and 8060, 8030, all those small pencil mics, pretty much all have that same kind of thin wall barrel connector, right?
Yeah.
So as long as it has that thin wall, it'll plug directly in to the unit, and you can use it. So yeah, you can actually plug a mic straight in without using a cable for the ultimate of lightweight travelability.
Indeed.
Andrew, your in-car kit stays intact.
Look. Yeah. Yeah, indeed. Nice.
And
But wait, there's more.
you get a folding tripod like this guy. I've had this thing for years. I love it. It folds up really small, and then the legs fold out. And because the thing has a 1/4-20 thread for a tripod on the bottom, you plug your mic into the unit and you set it up on the desk with it angled at you at the correct angle. And now the whole unit acts as part of your mic stand.
Ah, but I've got a better one than that.
Threads on, right?
I've got a better one than that, George.
What do you got?
I have one of these.
You got the flexi
So
one.
you can either do your normal
Yeah, I got one of
tripod.
those somewhere, not right within arm's reach, but yes.
But the good thing about this is when you're in the car, you wrap it around the headrest on the front seat, and you've got
Voila.
your travel kit
That's
in
right.
the car.
Yeah, so you can mount this to that, and then the mic plugs into this. Robert, you were mentioning which mics work with it. I mean, as long as they have that thin-walled chassis, some of them have a thicker machine.
Like the 8s aren't going to do that at all, unfortunately. Right. That's why we had to get Andrew, and I think
obviously
that's why I brought it up. It's worth bringing up the little barrel connector that we had Andrew get, which solves this problem for everything.
Well, the CC8 was just a bit too thick to fit in there.
Yeah, they chose a thicker chassis. I don't know if CC8's brass or if it's aluminum or I don't know.
Do you have that adapter, Andrew?
Yeah, I do.
And you're about to show it?
Oh, I can use it to show
I don't have it on me.
Oh,
it's hidden.
No, you don't have it on you.
It's in his Vespa.
But yeah, you get a little $10 adapter that lets you make any mic have the collar that's thin enough to plug into the.
Yeah.
Write Andrew an email. He'll tell you.
Good
He
idea.
loves emails.
He does love
adapter
emails.
The adapter essentially looks like just that.
Yeah.
Folds into this
That's
camera.
right.
It's just a male to female extender kind of thing.
Right. It just goes male.
I'll see if I can find it.
It's a couple inches long, isn't it, Andrew? Not long, we're off.
Oh, yeah, for Andrew, it's just a couple. That's true.
I got that one. Is that the out?
As
Andrew walks
That's
away.
the out. As Andrew walks away, he's got the shits. There you go. That's the out.
Well, that was fun. Is it over?
The Pro Audio Suite, with thanks to Tribooth and Austrian Audio. Recorded using Source Connect. Edited by Andrew Peters and mixed by Voodoo Radio Imaging with tech support from George the Tech Whittam. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and join in the conversation on our Facebook group. To leave a comment, suggest a topic, or just say g'day, drop us a note at our website, theproaudiosuite.com.